A long time ago, in the hidden corners of the fairy tale world of Middle-earth, there lived an ancient and terrible dragon named Smaug. Its spine was decorated with armor made of thick scales, sparkling in the sunlight like gold. Huge wings, like a black cloud, darkened against the sky. Smaug's eyes, like two brightly flaming coals, sparkled in the darkness of his underground cave, located in Zaudinskaya Mountain. The story of the origin of the dragon Smaug was tied to the ancient legend about his origin and formation. According to this legend, Smaug was one of the last great dragons, descended from the ancient dragons of Melkor, the evil enemy of the Valar, and who created dark creatures, including dragons, at the very beginning of time. The very emergence of Smaug is described as the result of his evolution and development in antiquity. He was probably born in one of the ancient and dark corners of the world, perhaps in some of the ancient underground caves or gorges where the shadows of Melkor still permeated the earth. As Smaug grew older, he grew stronger and bigger, devouring everything in his path, and his thirst for blood and gold became more and more insatiable. He could go through many battles and conquer many lands before he achieved the glory that became his characteristic. Zaudinskaya Mountain was not just a mountain. It was alive, shrouded in mystery and magic, permeated with underground caves and gorges like a vein alternating with stone tunnels and crystal lakes. In the depths of this mountain, in the very heart of its greatness, there was a cave that Smaug chose for his home. The Cave of Smaug was a place where shadow and darkness came together in an inextricable union. The entrance to it was hidden from the eyes of uninvited guests, and only those who were brave and reckless could dare to approach this ominous haven. The rocks emanated cold like the breath of death itself, and the air itself was saturated with the smell of gold and antiquity. Inside the cave, there was a terrible emptiness, interrupted only by the dim light from the brilliant treasures that Smaug had collected for centuries. Silver, gold, precious stones. All this was part of his endless treasury, which he guarded with all his fury and greed. But it was not only the treasure that made this cave a place of horror. In the very depths lay greatness and fear, embodied in the appearance of the dragon himself. Smaug, majestic and terrible, slept or perhaps rummaged through his treasures, like an evil monstrous dream that could suddenly awaken and unleash wrath on those who dared to disturb his peace. No one knew how many years this ancient serpent ruled Zaudin, but everyone in these parts knew about his greed and cruelty. Smaug loved gold more than anything in the world. He menacingly guarded his treasures lying in the vast halls of his cave, and did not spare anyone who dared to approach his treasures. Such was the home of Smaug, a place where darkness and gold were intertwined in a fragile union, and the dragon, lord of this dark empire, ruled his kingdom with an iron fist, ready to destroy anyone who dared to become an obstacle in his path. Smaug, the great dragon from J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, had impressive abilities and skills that made him one of the most powerful and dangerous creatures in the world of Middle-earth. 1. Physical strength. Smaug was a huge and strong dragon, capable of excelling in physical challenges. His massive body, covered in thick scales, made him nearly invulnerable to conventional attacks. 2. Fire breath. Perhaps Smaug's most famous ability is his fire breath. He could breathe out streams of flame that could destroy everything in its path. This made him an extremely dangerous opponent in battle. 3. Intelligence and cunning. Smaug was not only a powerful physical being, but also possessed a high intelligence. He was cunning, capable of cunning tricks and strategic calculations. His conversations with Bilbo in The Hobbit show that he was not just a beast, but an intelligent and dexterous creature. 4. Flying abilities. Smaug was a master of flight. His huge wings allowed him to maneuver in the air with ease, making him even more dangerous, especially in attacks from above. 5. Sensitivity to gold. Like a typical dragon, Smaug was extremely greedy. He was attached to his treasures and guarded them with cruelty. His skills in detecting gold and precious stones were unparalleled. 6. Invulnerability, in theory. Thanks to his thick scales, Smaug seemed virtually invulnerable to conventional attacks. He could deflect blows from swords and arrows, and his body was protected from many types of damage. All these abilities made Smaug one of the most dangerous and merciless opponents in the world of Middle-earth. His power and greed made him a legend who lived in the hearts of both fear and admiration. But one day, fate brought a group of brave adventurers to Xeodin. Among them was a brave dwarf named Thorin Oakenshield, a prince from the lost kingdom of Erebor, whom Smaug drove from his homeland and forced to wander through foreign lands. Thorin and his companions, accompanied by the magical wizard Gandalf and a brave hobbit named Bilbo Baggins, decided to return Erebor to the dwarves and free it from the dragon. They entered Smaug's cave, where they encountered his menacing presence. The dragon, burning with anger, guarded its treasures and was ready to destroy all who dared to approach. Thorin Oakenshield, the brave prince of the dwarves from the lost kingdom of Erebor, was a man devoid of everything except his tenacity and thirst to restore the lost property to his people. His heart burned with the desire to free his home from the dragon that oppressed their lands and devoured their treasures. Together with his faithful companions, brave dwarves, a brave hobbit named Bilbo Baggins, and a wise wizard Gandalf, Thorin set out on a dangerous journey to end the threat that had long plagued their people. Weaving strength and ingenuity, the heroes overcame all obstacles on their way, with every step approaching the mountain where Smaug lived. And finally, the day came when they entered the city of Esgaroth, which was located at the foot of Xeodinia. On this day, fate confronted them with a dragon. Smaug, majestic and terrible, suddenly soared into the sky like a storm, with furious anger in his heart. Its giant wings blocked out the sun, and its ominous roar pierced the hearts of the people of Esgaroth. But Thorin and his friends did not flinch before this giant. They stood opposite him, ready to take on the challenge. Bilbo, cunning and brave, realized that the battle did not have to be direct. He ventured to Xeodinia alone in order to confuse Smaug and divert his attention from the city. And so, in the shadow of Xeodinia, Bilbo met with Smaug and began a conversation. To the surprise of everyone, including Smaug himself, the dragon became engrossed in conversation with the hobbit, telling him about his treasures and his pride. The dragon, surprised by the hobbit's unexpected appearance, listened to his words, trying to guess his intentions. But Bilbo was cunning and clever. He skillfully distracted Smaug while his friends prepared for the decisive blow. But even during this conversation, Smaug did not lose his danger. He felt that Bilbo had come to his cave for a reason, and tried to find a weak spot in his story. But Bilbo, thanks to his cunning nature and ability to control himself in stressful situations, was able to distract the dragon while his companions tried to find a weak point in the dragon's armor. Eventually, through cunning and courage, the heroes were able to deceive Smaug and find a way to defeat him. The dragon, angry, rose into the air and flew to Esgaroth, the city that lay at the foot of the mountain, to avenge his treasures. But even when Smaug was defeated, his legend continued to live in the hearts of those who dared to face this terrible creature. Smaug was and remains one of the most feared and powerful characters in the mythology of Middle-earth, symbolizing the strength, greed, and danger that lurk in the darkness and threaten the world. Thus ended the legend of Smaug, the great dragon whose rage and greed brought much suffering, but who was defeated by the courage and determination of those who dared to stand against him. The story of victory over darkness and evil became a bright page in the chronicles of Middle-earth, reminding everyone that even when hope seems lost, courage and friendship can overcome the most terrible trials.